as the Foxconn sequencing, because it is hard to measure anything. I think it is thousands of genes now, but we're transitioning to multiple genes per person, multiple variants interacting in gene-environment interactions. And I think that's the next set of goals. But we made, I think, a great deal of progress in 1991.
So I guess the one goal I did see quite clearly was the aging, living longer as an endpoint goal. So in an ideal world, what would be your future goal in the bigger picture?
Yeah, the goal for that?
No, the goal in general. If you made the world better, what would it be?
There are medical goals set by the community, not by me, but they're certainly in developing nations. I mean, I have a bunch of slides I did show on malaria, and that could have quite an impact. Aging reversal, I think, would eventually impact everybody. And those would be, those categories of diseases would be high on my list, but it's not exhaustive. I mean, we're trying to make it enabling technologies that anybody can use on their worst case diseases.
Yeah, so so you closed with talking about sequencing at the tissue side in pathology, and inherently that makes a lot of sense to me. When you think about pathology as typically, you're just analyzing cells based on morphology. So how do you see the real sweet spot for marrying nucleic acid analyses with disease or health at the tissue level? When cells, for example, can be either replicating or not replicating in the process of just being newly recruited to that site versus about to die. I mean, how do you see leveraging nucleic acid analyses particularly being valuable at the tissue level?
Right, so the fluorescent CT sequencing is something that in principle can be used on any step, all of or any subset of DNA RNA protein. And so to the extent that you have any insight into the state of a cell based on any of those molecules, you should be able to do it better the more you do simultaneously. I realize that's not a detailed answer because it would be a case by case depending on the pathology. Knowing how recently a cell came into a site, I think that's the new tools to make it easier. I'm not saying it makes it easy.
Or like active replication versus not?
Well, replication, I think that would be a piece of cake. But migration, I don't know. It's not out of my expertise.
Vlad?
So going back to the introduction that Jason did and the picture of the woolly mammoth, what are some of the concerns that you face in the synthetic biology field with regards to bioethics and national security? Not necessarily focusing on the woolly mammoth itself.
So concerns of synthetic biology in environmental settings, is that the question?
Or part of the question, but are there any security concerns that you have faced?
So we've addressed many ethical and policy issues along the way. I mean, if you're part of new technology, it's an obligation. In 2004 or 5, I raised the issue of the new chip-based DNA synthesis, which is about how cheaper could enable synthesis of viruses and maybe even large bacterial sequences. And so I proposed that we incorporate computational tools for surveying all the orders of synthetic DNA for select agents. It seems obvious that you should do that, but back then it wasn't so obvious, but now it is fairly routine for most of the large synthesis companies to do that kind of computational check. It's not perfect. That's an example of a security issue. I think that the gene drives that we hope to use on malaria have to be brought out very carefully because they're intentionally spreading. It's not a virus. It's purely spread by sexual transmission in mosquitoes. But there's not so much security, but safety and efficacy at an environmental level. The same way you might be concerned about it on an individual level in drug therapeutic testing. Thank you.
Maybe you could describe more about the gene drive and malaria. You didn't talk about it. It's a hot area that Steve talked about in general.
Yeah, I can do it without slides. Basically, it uses the CRISPR, or the way our preferred implementation uses the CRISPR cutting that I did describe to deliver a cassette. It's a selfish DNA that doesn't just jump all over the place like transposon, but only converts the locus that it's in. So when you get a mating with a viable organism, the modified one will convert that locus and all the offspring, so you get 100% inheritance rather than normal Mendelian 50%. And the consequence is in, say, mosquitoes, where you have hundreds of offspring per mating and dozens of matings per season, you can get exponential spread of a cassette along with the so-called selfish DNA that the cassette confers malaria resistance to mosquito. And frankly, you could also drive mosquito extinction, but a more conservative and equally plausible route is to make them so they're resistant to the malaria parasite. If they're not carrying it, then the human eventually will dissipate from the human population. And if it does get to that point, then it's like smallpox and polio. Humans are the only mammalian reservoir, unlike flu. And so it would be a permanent solution for that. That's roughly speaking how gene drives work, and they can be used to either introduce herbicide resistance or pesticide resistance, or drive extinction in invasive species such as rodents, which are killing off major source of extinction on islands in the world.
I guess the concern that is often expressed is how do you control the gene drive, right?
So we before we brought out our first experiments, we've done our first experiment in yeast. We emphasized, of course, the physical containment, ecological containment. Say don't do it where if the mosquito can get and breed with mosquitoes in the immediate population of the surrounding lab, and then genetic isolation where you can have the gene drive decoupled from the Cas9 and the guide RNA can be separated so that it does get at the lab result have an impact. And so we've proven, and also there's gene drive reversal mechanisms. So we've proven all of these things work, all these safety mechanisms work in yeast now. But we still need more discussion and certainly a lot of thoughts in using it in other organisms. We were starting to think we would accidentally invent gene drives, and that's more or less happened a couple of times now since we published the paper in July.
Thanks very much. My question is a little bit futuristic. What do you think when we will be able to edit genome like in a molecular eugenic approach when they can release it eugenics? Yes, and edit off bad mutations from the humans.
Well, so modern, so it's actually a complicated term because it really applied to many nations in the 30s through the 60s, including the United States, Canada, and Europe, and it would really reflect the government sterilization of individuals against their will. A modern version of that could mean literally good genes. It could include parents making decisions, reproductive decisions, which you might call genetic counseling, which happens all the time. Parents making decisions at the PGD IDF stage, which is more technologically significant, but the same goal of making sure you have healthy babies. Where in that case, to fight that kind of good genes, the government would have to once again interfere with the parents' decision making. But so then, in addition to kind of conventional genetic counseling and IVF selection, you could do alteration, and you could do that either at the adult, at the child, or germline. And so the fact on the ground, a changing adult would have many of the same properties that change as germline, and say you could alter their physiology. But the people draw a line right now between the two, which I think partly reflects the safety. Yeah.
I mean, we know that there are mutations that cause some diseases, and in theory, we would be able to edit these mutations of the genome of individual. So then, do you think we will be reaching that?
So at the somatic level, so changing
at the embryonic.
But you don't do it at the embryonic level. You can't do it at the somatic level, or just less safe, or way more expensive, right? So the gene therapies, the 2000 gene therapies, already in clinical trials. So there's a lot that can be done at the somatic level. Sometimes you move it earlier. For example, for blindness, if your blindness at an early enough age, you're not going to actually be able to see well or recognize. So there will be advantages to doing it earlier and earlier, and I think there'll be a lot of discussion that's based on how serious is the illness and is there any other way of doing it. But if you end up with very serious illnesses and there's no other way of doing it, or they're less safe or more expensive, then I think it will go through normal clinical trials. Yeah.
George, great talk, very interesting, a lot of things to think about. A question about the brain things you were talking about, and the question really is that you focus on the human brain, where it's so complicated. I wonder if there are any thoughts to try to use these techniques of doing all these different kinds of data that you can gather on some more simple model systems where might be able to actually figure out some of the circuits in those systems that could inform how you try to go about looking at these things in the human.
Right. So all the numbers and the Rosetta that I thought about was aimed at the mouse or small primates. So you would get either opportunities for doing this early on in those animals that would be hard to do in humans. In humans, we do have a lot of electrode-based therapies and to some extent experiments that tag along on those therapies. Deep brain stimulation for epilepsy and depression, and electrode arrays for retina and cochlear implants. They're very crude, and the hope is to improve those. But if you do the math, if you want to really affect a truly large number of read and or write to a large number of neurons, it's very hard to do that with electrical or optical stimulation. And you get anywhere close to all the neurons. And so the synthetic biology approach that I just barely scratched the surface of there, I think has promise. It'll obviously have to be worked out in mice and primates first. But the point is the synthetic biology is well matched to interfacing with the various mammalian brains because of the energy consumption and the size of the elements that you can use. So the electrodes and optical methods are off by about 5 or 6 orders of magnitude in terms of energy consumption and size. Also, synthetic biology is right on target, but it's still very early stages.
You showed off-target effects of Cas-CRISPR during your talk, and I might have a little bit of variation of what the gentleman before you was asking. What is the perspective, what are your thoughts to germline editing in human and with respect to off-target effects? Is it something which is actually technologically pretty close, or is it still like a look at
Okay, so I will give you my quirky opinion, which is that if you're concerned about off-target, if you treat somebody, let's say systemically, so our lab is publishing on systemic delivery of a known-associated virus to every cell in the body, there might be certain diseases where you would want to do that, or just maybe not everyone, but some large sampling, large number of cells. You have, whatever the off-target is multiplied by the number of cells that you do. So if you do the whole body, the older you get, the more cells there are. If you engineer a progenitor for sperm cells, let's say, in labs, you can do that clonally, so that all the sperm are derived from a particular clone, maybe prebiotic. And so all the offspring can be characterized on that clone before you differentiate them into meiotic and initially sperm. So you could imagine that that's much safer for the offspring, because you sequence the entire genome of the progenitor for all of those cells. While if you do it in a conventional in vivo viral delivery or non-viral delivery, you have lots of opportunities for off-target. So even if the off-target is as low as I said we're aiming for, in the -14th and the -19th, you still are taking a risk that you wouldn't take if you actually sequence the genome of a progenitor. So I think it's too early to say one is safer than the other. And I think that the concerns about germline are right now all tangled with safety. As soon as safety is addressed, I think we'll have a different discussion. I don't know what that discussion will be, but it'll be different. Thanks.
Hi, just also a follow-up to the question, previous question. How far are we technologically, in your view, from applying germline editing in the clinic?
Right. Well, so some people would argue that mitochondrial gene therapy is a form, it's not editing. I think the prerequisites probably should be, maybe will be, getting it to work very well somatically. So right now there's a very small number of clinical trials on editing somatically, like the Sangamo CCR5 gene editing. There's in phase 2 clinical trials. So that will have to expand, and we get a great deal of confidence. We figure out whether there's any cancer caused by off-target. And doing it, the closer we get to full systemic delivery to all the adult cells, the higher our confidence is that it won't be affecting the diverse set of cells in embryo. And then there'll be germline editing of animals, not just for science, but for agricultural applications. And if all that comes together, your question is when will it all come together? I think we'll be doing clinical trials in human somatic in probably in a year and a half. We're already doing some gene editing with finger nucleases, with CRISPR in a year and a half. And then I'd say probably another 5 years or so before we're ready to tackle it in a well-chosen case where it's very risky to do it any other way.
So for everybody, it's going to be a lot. Like the general applicability.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm talking about getting us from here to phase 1 is at least 5 years. It would be a very deleterious case. Yeah.
So the fluorescence in situ sequencing is very impressive. And I know it builds on a lot of previous work from your lab, but I was wondering, how long did it take to actually get that working? And have other labs brought up a system like that and used it?
Right, so yeah, good question. It took less time than nanopore sequencing, which is, say, that it's second worst performance timing. So our first paper that mentioned the word fluorescence sequencing was 1999, so it predated what most people call next-gen sequencing. But it clearly is part of next-gen sequencing. It's one of the motivations that we had for developing next-gen sequencing. Well, for the nanopore goes back to 89, so 10 more years of failure and success. Most of it happens in the last 2 years, really. Most of the progress has been in the last 2 years.
And have any other labs?
Any other labs, yeah. So we provide the instrument as a service, and so the labs have done it in that mode. No one has yet purchased the instrument to run it in their own lab. But there's a handful of labs that have done their biology with it, mostly to get preliminary results for grants. So it's very early stage. And I think, quite frankly, I don't think it's that attractive until we get it fully integrated with the expansive microscopy.
So the follow-up question about the technical nature, because I also find it extremely fascinating. So the read lengths and handling of isoforms and things that are really hard, not well worked out, I think, when you're doing RNA sequencing,
right.
So you didn't mention anything about short reads, long reads, all of that sort of thing. I assume it's genome-wide, or do you have to pick a set of transcripts?
Yeah, so the way we did it, we used random priming, so we could get some serendipitous discoveries. We used both Illumina-style sequencing and solid ligation chemistry. They both work. The longest read I think we've done is a little over 30 nucleotides, but that's enough to identify an exon or collection of exons. And so we're not highly motivated to go much longer than that yet, anyway. It's kind of a trade-off between how many sections you can do and how many cycles you can do. And I guess we're aiming.
And so I assume you need living cells?
These are fixed, so they're formalin fixed initially, and then we go through additional steps of building a cDNA and turn it into a hydrogel. The same thing goes for expansive microscopy. In that case, Williams Group has used antibodies that are labeled with oligonucleotides, which are then coupled to the hydrogel. And then when it expands, the nucleic acid tag for the antibody is all that's left. And you essentially got this beautiful, pristine hydrogel with nothing on it other than a few tags. And so that's how you detect proteins for this method, or this cluster of methods.
Hi, George. Yeah. So I have 2 questions. So first question is that how long do you think it would take for the nanopore sequencing to phase out current sequencing technology like Illumina and PacBio? And second question is that is that possible for single molecule sequencing to be as accurate as Illumina sequencing? I mean, less than 1% accurate, less than 1% error rate, as well as has long read length.
Let me answer the first one, the second half first, because I think it helps you understand when it will displace it. You framed it as a 1% error rate, which is a raw error rate. But most people care about the consensus error rate. The consensus error rate gets improved exponentially with a small number of reads results in a huge improvement in consensus error rate. If you talk about random errors, if you have systematic errors, then typically you change the algorithm so that it accommodates the systematic errors and then you're left with random again. But PacBio is a beautiful example of how you can have very high raw error rates and end up with a beautiful consensus, which in many ways is better than Illumina. So, for example, we've been sequencing a bacterial genome for many months at 1,000-fold coverage in Illumina and could never get fewer than 300 contigs. We did one PacBio run, 1 contig, and it's really high quality. And so what happens is, ironically, even though PacBio has up to 15% raw error rate, just a kind of standard coverage, 30x coverage, and you're now at 99.99% accurate. And of course, we'll be somewhere at probably for a while. Although the 1 nanopore strategy I showed you where it drops the baseline in between, there's no reason why you couldn't get a raw error rate that's quite good as well. And then one final comment about the PacBio is you can get incredible raw error rates on PacBio. So there's some experiments where you really want to know a particular molecule sequence. You don't want to have a consensus. You want a consensus for that one. So the circular mode where they go around and around on the same molecule means that you can get really great raw error rates, which are better than any other clonal amplification or non-amplified method. So I think it's really hard to many of these were dismissed by some of my colleagues as PacBio, Helicose, Nanopore. They were all ridiculous because we're going to have high error rates. And I say, keep an open mind because, so how quickly we'll displace it? A lot of the costs right now for sequencing are equipment amortization. You've got $1 million piece of equipment, or maybe 10 million in some cases. That has to go really, really fast in order to justify the capital investment. Because it's highly automated and it's the reagent cost dropped. And so I think that's one of the advantages of nanopore is you can get something that has in principle the same number of read heads per chip, but there's nothing really that much more than a chip. And so you can have an instrument cost in the hundreds of dollars rather than $10 million. And I think that, again, I'm not making hyper promises. I'm just saying keep an open mind. It could be a couple of years. We saw Illumina displace solid in 454 in basically 1 or 2 years. Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's the last question for that.
Hi, John. When you talked about the CRISPR system, you said how important it is to start with a good reference genome.
Yes.
So ideally,
not good, but the right one. Yeah.
So ideally, would you say you need to whole genome every subject before you design a system for them?
That would be nice. Yeah. Well, I think everybody's sequenced anyway, so that's sort of my bias. Yeah. But assuming everybody's sequenced is not an extra burden.
But how do you expect to standardize the whole process, though?
Standardize?
Or is it a custom?
I mean, yes. We're entering the era of personalized and precision medicine, and so we need to. This is just one of many things we need to learn how to standardize and customize at the same time. Cars are pretty safe, even though those 2 cars are alike, right?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, George. It was really fantastic.
Thank you. We were comparing notes at breakfast, and the companies often have where George grew up Serge grew up in a very non-academic setting and managed to sneak his way into it, do incredibly well. And I was the opposite. I grew up in a very academic setting and did everything to run away from it. So here we are. Yeah. And the old DARPA rescued my childhood. I lived in New Jersey. It was the most boring place in the world. And then one day, DARPA wrote their first check. Herb York was the scientific director. He was Eisenhower's science advisor. And he could write up to $1 million. He didn't need any approval. So he wrote these guys a check for $999,750 to start this thing. It became Project Orion, a space project, and then they hired my dad. So we got to leave it to come to California. So huge thanks. And I first met you through my sister, Esther, who one day, Science magazine called me and they said, do you realize this guy's publishing half your genome in public? Did anybody ask you? We had all these ethical questions about, once we could do sequencing, what happens to this information? Is it available to insurance companies to say that they won't insure me because I'm a risk? Anyway, my sister was one of your test subjects of the personal genome project. We sequenced 10 entire people. and freely published it, but indeed, nobody asked me. And, I should have. So, but you're forgiven.
Esther was supposed to ask it.
Yeah. If she had asked, I would have said yes. Good. Okay. So tell me, there was so much rich material this morning. So I think you're thinking bigger yet, which is, so the first question is why, you want to engineer entire genomes, not just doing this sort of editing. And why do you think that's the path forward?
Well, I think, we